7 unsolved Appalachian disappearances that will keep you up at night. Have you ever wondered what secrets the ancient mountains keep? Imagine this: 7 friends, fresh out of college and hungry for adventure, decide to hike a remote stretch of the Appalachian Trail. But something goes terribly wrong. Years later, all that's left of their story is a single, undeveloped roll of film that promises to reveal a terrifying truth, not just about them, but about the long history of people who have vanished into those same woods. To explore some of the Appalachians' most chilling real-life mysteries, we're going to start with a story. It's a fictional scenario. Let's be clear about that, but it's a way for us to frame and honor the very real tragedies we're about to discuss. Let's call them the Sojourn 7. Their story starts with that familiar buzz of excitement before a big trip, maps spread on a table, gear piled high, and the endless optimism of youth. For 3 days, their trek is perfect. Journals talk of campfires, deer at dawn, and stunning sunsets over the blue-green peaks. But on the morning of the 4th day, their camp is found abandoned. Tents are empty, a pot of water sits over a cold fire pit, and a journal lies open, its last entry describing a strange, rhythmic sound in the woods. There's no sign of a struggle, no footprints leading away. It's as if the mountain just swallowed them whole. The case goes cold for a decade. Then, a hunter finds a weathered backpack miles from the campsite. Inside is a single, undeveloped roll of film. It belonged to Maya, the group's photographer. When the film is finally developed, the images aren't of the 7 smiling friends. Instead, the roll contains 7 haunting photos, each a ghostly echo of another soul lost to these mountains, a catalog of the Appalachians' most baffling unsolved cases. This fictional film roll is our way of connecting their stories. Our investigation begins with the first photo and the real-life mystery of a young man who vanished in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains. Section 1. The first photo, the story of Derek Luking. The first photograph from our theoretical roll of film is a portrait of a young man in his early 20s. He's clean-cut, with a kind face that seems at odds with the wild journey he's about to take. His name was Derek Luking, and his real story is a maze of bizarre choices and unanswered questions. At 24, Derek was, by all accounts, a responsible and steady person. He was a recent college grad working as a psychiatric technician, a job that requires a calm demeanor. But on March 15, 2012, that steady rhythm broke when Derek didn't show up for work. His family quickly discovered he had left his Louisville, Tennessee, home the day before. His computer history showed searches for the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Receipts revealed he'd spent over $1,000 on new camping and survival gear. He'd stayed at a motel, a campground, and finally a hotel in Cherokee, North Carolina, right at the park's edge. When his parents got to the hotel, they found a strange scene: a Bible on the bed and a bottle of liquor on the floor. His father later said it looked like a man wrestling with a profound decision. The most critical clue came on March 17th. His family found his white Ford Escape at the Newfound Gap parking lot, a popular access point for the Appalachian Trail. Inside the car, the mystery only deepened. His wallet and keys were there. So was most of the brand-new survival gear he'd bought. And on the seat, a small note with just 5 chilling words: "Don't look for me." Despite the note, a massive search was launched. The area around Newfound Gap is one of the busiest parts of the park, yet nobody remembered seeing Derek. For a week, searchers and dog teams scoured over 70 miles of rugged terrain. Helicopters with thermal imaging scanned the forest. They found nothing. It was as if Derek Luking had stepped out of his car and simply vanished. So what happened? Theories are as varied as they are heartbreaking. Some believe he planned to disappear and live off the grid, inspired by the survivalist TV shows he was known to watch. His family admitted Derek had seemed unhappy with his life and had started drinking and smoking, which was out of character for him. A darker theory is that Derek went into the woods with no plan to return. The date he disappeared, March 17th, was the anniversary of his grandfather's death, a detail that adds a layer of sorrow to the timeline. That five-word note could be read as a final goodbye. Then there's the possibility of an accident or foul play. The Great Smoky Mountains are vast. An inexperienced hiker, even with gear, could easily have a fatal fall or get injured in a remote spot. The mystery was compounded when, months later, human remains were found nearby, but they belonged to another missing man. Today, Derek's family is left without closure, haunted by the image of his car sitting alone at the top of a mountain. What happened after he wrote that note and stepped into the forest remains the mountain's secret. Section 2. The second photo, the story of Gretchen Fleming. The second image from Maya's fictional film roll is different. It's a candid shot of a young woman with a huge, infectious smile, caught in a moment of celebration. This is the real story of Gretchen Fleming, a 27-year-old whose night out with friends ended in a disappearance that continues to haunt her community. On the night of December 3, 2022, Gretchen was at the My Way Lounge, a popular bar in downtown Parkersburg, West Virginia. In the early hours of December 4th, she was seen leaving with a man later identified as a person of interest in her case. That was the last time anyone is confirmed to have seen Gretchen Fleming. Gretchen never returned to her grandparents' house, where she was living. Her family's worry turned to dread when they learned her purse and cell phone had been left behind at the bar. In our world, a phone is a lifeline, and leaving it behind suggested something was terribly wrong. Her family officially reported her missing on December 12, 2022. The investigation almost immediately focused on the man she was last seen with. Search warrants were executed on his home, and the FBI was brought in to assist Parkersburg police, signaling the case's gravity. FBI evidence teams combed through the property, looking for any trace of Gretchen or any clue as to what happened after she left the bar. Despite the intense focus, the case hit a wall. While the man was publicly named a person of interest, he has never been charged in connection with Gretchen's disappearance. Authorities have remained tight-lipped, saying only that it is a complex and ongoing investigation. In May of 2025, the FBI reissued a missing person poster for Gretchen, a public plea for any information that could break the stalemate. A $100,000 reward has been offered, but it remains unclaimed. The prevailing theory, held by both law enforcement and the public, is that Gretchen met with foul play. She left a bar with the primary person of interest and was never heard from again. Her car was at her apartment, and her purse and phone were at the bar. These aren't the actions of someone who planned to leave. They're the signs of a life cut short. The community has been left to wonder what happened. Did an argument turn violent? Was she taken somewhere against her will? The person of interest has not cooperated fully with the investigation, which has only fueled dark speculation. Gretchen's family is trapped in an unbearable limbo, caught between the faint hope she might return and the terrible fear she was the victim of a violent crime. For now, Gretchen Fleming's story is a chilling reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers aren't in the wilderness, but in the company we keep. Section 3. The third photo, the story of Claude and Sue Shelton. The third photograph is a vintage black and white, faded by time. It shows a man and a woman standing proudly next to a classic 1960s sedan. This is the real and deeply perplexing mystery of Claude and Sue Shelton, a young couple who told their kids they were going out for a late-night snack and drove right off the face of the earth. The date was May 21st, 1971, in the small town of Corbin, Kentucky. Claude Shelton, 37, was a dependable mechanic, and his wife, Martha Sue Shelton, 27, was a dedicated homemaker. Their lives revolved around their three young children, Sheila, 10, Ronnie, 8, and Debbie, 7. That night, after tucking the children in, the oldest daughter, Sheila, overheard her father ask her mother, "Are you going to go with me, or stay here?" They told the kids they were driving to King's Truck Stop, a 24-hour spot about 5 miles away, for a bite to eat. They got into their white 1967 Ford Galaxie 500 and disappeared into the night. When the children woke up, their parents were gone. By 7 a.m., Claude's boss was at the door, wondering why his most reliable employee was a no-show. Inside the home, the scene made no sense. Sue's purse was reportedly left behind. A savings jar on the counter, known to hold around $600 in cash, was untouched, and Claude's paycheck was waiting for him at work, uncollected. Police were called, but there were no leads. No one at King's Truck Stop remembered seeing the Sheltons or their distinctive white Ford Galaxie that night. A massive search was launched. A major focus was Laurel River Lake, which was under construction at the time. The theory that they might have accidentally driven into the water was plausible. Over the decades, divers have searched sections of the massive lake, but its depths have revealed nothing. Not a single trace of the Sheltons or their car has ever been found. So what happened? The idea that they would abandon their 3 children is dismissed by everyone who knew them. They were devoted parents, and leaving behind their savings and paychecks makes no sense if they were planning to run away. The most prominent theory is foul play. One unverified report mentioned a car with its hood up on a road near town that night. This led to a haunting question. Could Claude, a mechanic, have stopped to help a stranded motorist and driven his family into a deadly trap? Could they have been robbed and murdered, their car hidden in the deep waters of the unfinished lake? More than 50 years later, the case of Claude and Sue Shelton remains open with the Kentucky State Police. 2 parents, 3 orphaned children, and a white Ford Galaxie that drove out of a trailer park and into a mystery that has spanned generations. These mountains are woven with stories like these. Real people with real families who walked into the wilderness or down a dark road and were never seen again. Their cases grow cold, and their names start to fade, but they shouldn't be forgotten. If you believe these mysteries deserve to be kept in the public eye, please consider subscribing. You'll help ensure that the search for answers continues, no matter how long it takes. Now, let's get back to the stories. Section 4. The fourth photo, the story of Nancy and Lockhart. The fourth photograph is a portrait of a woman whose height and striking features would make her stand out in any crowd. This is Nancy and Lockhart, a 33-year-old mother of 2 whose disappearance from her late father's home in rural Kentucky left behind a trail of deeply disturbing clues. Nancy was last seen on June 24, 2009, in Belfry, Kentucky. She was at her father's house on Turkey Creek, a place that held a lot of meaning for her. Her father had passed away the year before, and his death had devastated her. Her family was concerned for her, but they were adamant she was a devoted mother who would never abandon her 2 young sons. The last person known to have seen Nancy was her boyfriend, Chris Chenard. He claimed they had an argument that morning, and Nancy simply left. But a chilling account from a young relative, who was only 6 at the time, tells a different story. The child said that around 10:30 a.m., Chris came next door to use the phone and allegedly told the child that Aunt Nancy was missing. About an hour later, the witness saw something even more alarming. Chris and a friend backing a van up to the porch and carrying several large garbage bags and a rug out of the house. A formal search was launched, but despite police, fire departments, and search dogs, they found no trace of the 5-foot, 11-inch woman. Nancy and Lockhart had vanished. The investigation, unsurprisingly, focused on her boyfriend. The family's insistence that Nancy would never leave her children was a powerful argument against his story. But the most damning clue came from Nancy herself. On her MySpace profile, there was a public photo album titled, "This Man Beats His Woman," and it contained photos of her with Chenard. This digital breadcrumb trail suggested a history of domestic violence and pointed to a motive far more sinister than a simple argument. The witness's account of garbage bags and a rug being removed from the house right after she supposedly went missing paints a horrifying picture of a potential crime scene being cleaned up. Despite these highly suspicious circumstances, the case went cold. Court records showed no charges were filed against the boyfriend in connection with her disappearance. Nancy's family was left in an agony of uncertainty, wondering what really happened in that house and what was in those garbage bags. Foul play seems almost certain in Nancy's case. The combination of a reported argument, a history of alleged abuse documented by Nancy herself, and her boyfriend's suspicious actions all point to a violent end. Her family just wants her brought home so she can be laid to rest. But without a body or a confession, the hills of Pike County hold their secrets tight. Section 5. The fifth photo. The story of Carrie Burgett. The fifth image to emerge is of a young woman with kind, blue eyes and hair. She'd recently dyed a vibrant shade of blue. This is Carrie Lee Burgett, a 28-year-old mother who walked out of her home in the middle of the night and straight into a story with two completely different versions of the truth. On the night of March 28, 2017, in West Liberty, Kentucky, Carrie told the relatives she was living with that she was leaving with her boyfriend. She made a crucial promise. She'd be back in a few hours, in time to get her children ready for school. It was a promise she never kept. Carrie and her boyfriend left, and her family has never seen or heard from her since. What happened next depends entirely on who you ask. According to Carrie's family, their daughter disappeared after leaving with her boyfriend, and their suspicion fell squarely on him. Their fears grew when he never once called to ask if Carrie had made it home. Adding to their suspicion, they later discovered he had sold her jewelry, which they managed to track down and buy back. But the boyfriend and his sister told investigators a totally different story. They claimed Carrie didn't stay with him. His sister alleged that Carrie left their home in the middle of the night with some unknown person, and they had no idea who it was or where she went. This version conveniently shifted the focus away from the boyfriend by introducing a mysterious stranger. The investigation was immediately stuck between these two conflicting stories. On one side, a worried family pointing to a silent, suspicious boyfriend selling his missing girlfriend's things. On the other, the boyfriend and his sister pointing to an unknown person who supposedly whisked Carrie away into the night. The theory held by her family is that the boyfriend knows what happened to her. His failure to contact them and his selling of her jewelry are massive red flags. Did they have an argument that turned tragic? The second theory is the one the boyfriend's sister presented, that Carrie left voluntarily with someone else. This seems highly unlikely, given her promise to return for her kids. A mother's promise is a powerful thing, and it's hard to believe she would break it without a word. The lack of progress is a source of immense frustration for Carrie's family. They are left grappling with two stories that can't both be true. Was she the victim of a terrible act by someone she trusted? Or did she walk away with a complete stranger? Years later, her children are growing up without their mother, and her family is still waiting for the truth of what happened after she promised, "I'll be back." Section 6. The sixth photo. The story of Gladys Stella Kidd. The sixth photo is the oldest yet, a portrait of a woman in her later years. She has a gentle but determined look and a very distinctive feature, one brown eye and one green eye. This was Gladys Stella Kidd, a 71-year-old widow whose 1990 disappearance is a bizarre tale of secrets, a huge sum of cash, and a mysterious lover. In the summer of 1990, Gladys Kidd knew she needed a change. A widow since 1983, managing her farm in Moorhead, Kentucky, was becoming too much for her. Her children had even taken her house hunting, but Gladys seemed completely uninterested. They had no idea she'd already made her own plans. Without telling her family, Gladys sold her farm. Right before she vanished, she went to the bank to finalize the sale, which netted her somewhere between $56,000 and $80,000. The bank teller, worried about her carrying so much cash, begged her to take a cashier's check. Gladys refused. She took the cash and walked out. On or around August 6, 1990, Gladys Kidd disappeared. At first, it looked like she'd planned it. She took her clothes, the cash, and, oddly, a filing cabinet. Her car was later found parked in town with the keys still inside, suggesting someone picked her up. About 17 days later, her son received a letter postmarked from Lexington, Kentucky. The handwriting looked like Gladys's, and it gave a stark instruction: "Don't try to find me. I would just leave." But her family was suspicious. Gladys only had a fourth-grade education, and they felt the grammar in the letter was too perfect, leading them to believe she was forced to write it. Then, a secret came out. Gladys's family revealed that she had a secret boyfriend. This man would call her frequently, but if anyone else answered, he'd hang up. Gladys would rush to answer the next call and often left the house right after, presumably to meet him. He refused to let her family know his identity, but Gladys had let one clue slip. She told her loved ones they already knew him and would be surprised to find out who he was. This man has never been identified. Did Gladys run off with her secret lover? It seems unlikely. Since her disappearance, her Social Security number has had no activity, and her checks have gone uncashed. Her family firmly believes she met with foul play. The most compelling theory is that her secret boyfriend, knowing she had just come into a fortune, convinced her to run away with him only to murder her for the money. The fact that she told her family they knew him adds a chilling layer. Was it a neighbor? A friend? Someone hiding in plain sight? In 2007, police excavated a piece of land based on a tip, but found nothing. Gladys Kidd, a 71-year-old widow with a secret, vanished into a mystery that has now lasted over 3 decades. Section 7. The final photo, the story of Winant Hemi Moore. The 7th and final image from Maya's fictional film roll is the most haunting. It's grainy and slightly out of focus, a photo of a young man at the edge of the wilderness. His name was Winant Hemi Moore, a 29-year-old U.S. veteran whose solo camping trip in 1974 ended with his things scattered by a lake and his fate becoming a local legend. On the first weekend of June 1974, Hemi was dropped off by his fiancée, Ruth Lyles, at the Mill Creek Lake area of Natural Bridge State Park in Kentucky for a weekend of camping and fishing. The plan was simple. She would return on Sunday, June 2nd, to pick him up. When Ruth returned, Hemi was gone. His campsite was empty. After she reported him missing, 2 fishermen came forward with a crucial and troubling discovery. That Sunday afternoon, they had found a number of Hemi's personal items near Mill Creek Lake: his wallet, his shoes, his clothes, and even a wrist brace he wore. But there was no sign of Hemi. Critically, 2 blankets and a black zippered bag he was known to have were missing. This discovery ramped up the search. Multiple agencies, park rangers, and bloodhounds combed the woods and dragged Mill Creek Lake. But despite all their efforts, they found nothing more. Winant Hemi Moore had vanished, leaving only a random collection of his belongings behind. Theories branch into 3 possibilities: accident, foul play, or an intentional disappearance. The simplest theory is a tragic accident, that Hemi fell into the lake and drowned. But extensive searches of the lake turned up nothing, and it doesn't explain the missing blankets and bag. A second theory suggests Hemi chose to disappear. His past was complicated. A few years earlier, he'd been arrested in Texas for trying to steal explosives, allegedly to bomb polluting industrial plants. He'd also been arrested in Kentucky for stealing marijuana from a large illegal grow operation. Could he have used the camping trip as a cover to escape legal troubles or dangerous associates? This might explain why he vanished so completely, but leaving his wallet behind makes little sense. This leads to the most sinister theory: foul play connected to his criminal activities. As one researcher noted, back in that era in Kentucky, stealing from someone's marijuana patch was an offense that could easily get you killed. Did Hemi's past finally catch up to him at his isolated campsite? This theory could explain the strange scene. A struggle could have occurred, and his attackers could have used the missing blankets and bag to carry or hide his body. For over 50 years, the mystery of Hemi Moore's disappearance has endured. His daughter grew up without a father, their lives forever marked by a question mark. The final, grainy photo on our fictional roll of film is a testament to a man who walked into the wilderness for peace and found an eternity of silence. The seventh and final photograph has been developed. 7 images, 7 true stories of loss, all echoing through the Appalachian Mountains. But the fictional film roll hasn't offered any answers about our imagined Sojourn 7. Why did Maya have these images? Was it some macabre project or a premonition? There are still 19 frames left on the roll. With a sense of dread, the technician continues developing. The final frames, everyone hopes, will finally show the missing friends. Frame 8 is black. Frame 9, also black. A sequence of darkness. Then comes frame 28. It's a chaotic blur of green and brown, the unmistakable result of a camera firing in a moment of pure panic. In the corner, a pale shape, a hand, identifiable by a unique silver ring. Olivia's hand, grasping at nothing. Frame 29 is even more chaotic. A streak of red, Ethan's jacket, flashes across the frame, the image tilted, distorted. It feels like falling. Frame 30 is the most chilling. The camera must have stabilized for a fraction of a second. The image is blurry, but coherent. It shows a face. It's Noah, the historian, his eyes wide with a terror that has no name. His mouth is open in a silent scream. Behind him, out of focus but undeniably there, is a figure. It's tall, unnaturally thin, and seems to blend into the trees, a shape of shadow and bark and ancient moss. Frame 31 is black. So are the rest. The film didn't solve the mystery of the Sojourn 7. It deepened it. It suggests the 7 friends didn't get lost or fall victim to a human predator. They encountered something else. The strange, rhythmic sound from Ben's journal suddenly takes on a new, terrifying meaning. The 7 real photos feel like a warning, as if Maya, in her final moments, was capturing the very essence of the mountain's dark history of swallowing people whole. This is the chilling hypothesis our fictional story offers. These aren't isolated incidents. They're a pattern, a tithe paid to an ancient, hungry wilderness. And the Sojourn 7 became the latest chapter, their story now forever bound to the 7 real stories that came before. The Appalachian Trail is a place of profound beauty, a sanctuary for millions. But for some, it is a place of endings, holding its secrets in the deep shadows and impenetrable fog. The real stories of Derek Luking, Gretchen Fleming, the Sheltons, Nancy Lockard, Carrie Burgett, Gladys Kidd, and Hemi Moore are not just tales to keep you up at night. They are tragedies that have left families trapped in an endless cycle of grief and unanswered questions. They represent the dozens of other souls who have vanished into these mountains. Our story of the Sojourn 7 was just that, a story. It was a narrative frame built to carry the weight of these true accounts, to remind us of the very real people who are still missing. The undeveloped film roll is a metaphor for the mysteries themselves, brief glimpses of a life, surrounded by darkness, offering more questions than answers. We end not with a solution, but with a final, unsettling question. The question isn't just what happened to these people, but what is it about these mountains that seems to swallow lives so completely, leaving only whispers and warnings in their wake? Because in the vast, silent wilderness of the Appalachians, some stories don't have an ending. They just stop, and the woods keep growing.